Hi, I'm Robert Wolff.
And I'm Gabriel Peterson.
And welcome to Innovation Coffee. Today's May 30th. Welcome to Innovation Coffee. I don't know. We had fun doing the intros like that at GDC. I messed it up. I wanted to do the whole date thing, and then
I think it worked out. We'll iron it out with some practice.
We'll iron it out. Yeah. So once again, hello, welcome to Innovation Coffee. My name is Robert Wolff.
And again, I'm Gabriel Peterson.
And we are here to bring you an amazing episode of Innovation Coffee today, March 30th, 2023. I'm living in the future. And we have some cool stuff planned. Now, don't forget, this is also about you, the developers, folks watching us from home, either live or on demand. We want to make sure that you get questions answered too. So, we have us, developer evangelists from ARM here, ready to take any questions you have. Of course, our guests as well, featured guests every single week, ready to take questions about the things that they are showcasing during this hour-long Innovation Coffee. Gabe, you have a coffee with you?
I do.
Let's just cheers real quick. I mean, I feel like we don't do that often enough. It is Innovation Coffee, and we are, in fact, drinking coffee usually every day. Gabe was nice enough to stop by the Starbucks and bring me one. So I have a nice vanilla latte. Anyways, all right. So today is a very special episode. We are joined by Ajeet Raina from Docker, also the founder and person who runs Collabnix and IoT Planet. Lots of really cool community engagement and community resources, community programs that he has been running or created and been running over the course of several years now. So we're going to talk to him about his progress with Collabnix, the cool stuff he's been doing there, IoT Planet, and of course the topic at hand, which is edge devices, integrated edge devices integrated into the cloud with integrated edge devices with cloud analytics. I believe I said that correctly. We'll see if I can look at the title in a minute. But we're going to be talking about all this cool stuff. Now, before we do that, if you do enjoy these streams, the stuff we're doing here, I hope you have fun. We try to keep it engaging. We try to keep it light, informal, and just to have discussions with engineers and developers around the world. Like the video. It really helps us out a lot. Smash that like button. Of course, we do go live every single week at 5 p.m. UTC, which now happens to be 10 a.m. Pacific, here on the ARM Software Developers YouTube channel. So subscribe, set your reminders every week. Don't forget to join our Discord channel or server, and you can get access to all this stuff very quickly. Now, Gabe, last week, we didn't do an Innovation Coffee on Thursday at 10 a.m. or 5 p.m. Pacific.
We did,
at 5 p.m. UTC. We did do some. We did actually at that time.
We were at that time.
But it was a special brew series at GDC. So I'm going to give Gabe a chance to really kind of give us a review or throwback to what we did last week.
Yeah, I mean, you can check it out on the channel. It's already been added to the playlist, but we were at GDC, so we did 5 innovation coffees, 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, and 1 wrap-up on Friday. We also did a bunch of other videos, which hopefully you'll be able to watch yourself soon. But, yeah, we just talked about what was going on, our favorite things, all the people we meet. It's really worth going back and checking out, especially because ARM booth was just so cool, and we just had this really nice backlit robot backdrop. It was definitely something we need to emulate when we get the actual studio up and running.
Enjoyed it thoroughly, yeah. So it was 5 special brews. We had a morning show where we did kind of like a pregame, and then we did a wrap up each day, and then at the end, the third day, which was Friday, we did like a closing ceremonies where we kind of just covered all the stuff that we've been talking about or doing throughout the entire show.
Yeah, the highlights of the show and everyone who was speaking and the ARM talks that were going on.
And I will say it was pretty amazing, right? Because not only did we get a chance to do these live streams, and not only did we get a chance to to meet a bunch of people and, I think create some great content. We also got to meet a bunch of developers and bring a bunch of developers into the ARM program. So, I think we closed out at like hundreds of developers who ended up coming to our booth and signing up to the ARM developer program. Very cool. So for those of you who are already joining us from the ARM developer program or community, be ready to welcome a bunch of really interesting game developers to the fold. So, you might see some cool gaming topics pop up. Now, anything else?
No, I was
All
just
right.
agreeing. I'm looking forward to seeing that the mobile and gaming talk increase. That's something I can chip in a little bit more. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. So now the topic at hand, integrating IoT edge devices with cloud native analytics for smarter insights. We have Ajeet Raina joining us all the way from India, right, Ajeet?
Yeah,
Excellent.
It's good to see you guys.
Hello, Ajeet. It's been a long time.
Yeah, but really excited to see you, both of you, and really excited to be part of this stream.
Yeah, we've been on this stream before, you and I. You've joined us, talked to us about quite a few different things. I like this topic at hand, and not only is this a cool topic, but it looks like you also wrote a blog that got published on the ARM community website and have a demo for us today. So this should be some fun. We have a whole 52 minutes to go over a bunch of cool stuff. Before that, though, Ajeet, I like to kind of, you've been on the show before, but maybe people don't remember, and we'll be sure to share this link in the description below so you can go watch other episodes with Ajeet. But tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Who are you? A fun anecdote, maybe?
Okay, yeah, sure. I can go ahead and introduce myself. So I am a developer. I work as a developer advocate at Docker. I'm a part of a DevRel team who looks for, keeping developer excited. So in Docker, it has been like 1 year back. I went full time. Before that, I was with the Redis and Dell for almost around 8.5 years. So apart from that, I've also, been part of the Collabnix as well as the Docker Bangalore community. So we have a huge developer community here, close to around 13,000 members. And we do every month we do meetups, and these meetups are like a mini conferences where you see around 400, 500 people appearing for these meetups. And what we basically do is we try to bring all those developers as well as the DevOps community and try to see how we can keep the DevOps as well as the developer community excited, introducing new sort of technology. And one of the things today, which I am going to talk about, is a cloud native technology. And IoT analytics and sensor analytics with cloud native. This is one of the topic which I ran a workshop last month in Bangalore, and there were around 120 people who appeared for that workshop. It was like a half-day workshop. So I'm really excited to share that kind of a story with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny when I take that sip of coffee right as you're ending your sentence, and I'm just like, but yeah. All right, cool. So Ajeet, a little about yourself. I understand you have some slides. Is this going to help us kind of bridge into the topic, or were those slides going to come later before the demo?
No, we can get started with the slides. I think that will help our audience to understand what I'm talking about.
Great.
Yeah, so I will go ahead and share my screen.
Bring those slides in when he pulls them up here.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Perfect. I think we can, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe so in the initial phase, I can just go through the slides, and so that our audience will get to know like what I'm talking about, especially 1 or 2 slides, and then we can discuss more and get into the demo part also.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Okay, so shall I get started?
Please. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, fine. A little about myself. I think I have already discussed about this. So today we are going to talk about 3 different technology when they merge, and you can see what kind of the end product you can get out of it. So as I talked about IoT sensor analytics, so that basically falls under the IoT edge devices. So when IoT edge devices, cloud native and artificial intelligence, so these are the 3 exciting technology. When they meet, how they are going to solve the problem, right? And with this, today I am going to talk about how you can do a sensor analytics and send it to the cloud for some kind of an analysis. Okay, so most of the time what happened that say, think of it is like, as if you go through the blog which I captured, though in that blog I have clearly mentioned about, okay, one of the use case which you can see here is when you talk about the IoT devices, these are more like a low power consumption devices, right? Where you can they are very close to the source of the data, which could be, say, as I have given example of the agriculture, right? So these sensors are very closer to the crops, and how you are going to fetch all the three: humidity, temperature, and pressure. And when you send it to the cloud, how easy it is. Now, today, if you see these small IoT devices, they have a very limited resources. One way is when you try to say, one of the example is the Jetson Nano, or you can pick up any of the Raspberry Pi, right? So for this kind of a solution, the reason why I picked Jetson Nano here is because it has an AI. It is basically an AI computer, which means on your edge device, instead of just getting a computation, you are also getting an artificial intelligence capability into it. So today I am going to show you how you can fetch the sensor values from one of the sensor device like BME 680, which basically pick up the pressure, temperature, and humidity, and how it can be sent to the cloud, using Docker containers. So today, if you look at the Docker containers are supported even on the edge devices. Even today, when you install Jetson Nano, by default, you already get Docker containers or Docker engine up and running. So this is the overall architecture. So I'm going to show you a demo where we will be running few of the Python scripts, which can again containerize, and that will fetch the value, send it to different NoSQL databases like Redis and Neo4j. And then at the end of the day, I am going to show you how you can plot it over the Grafana. So this is a complete architecture which I am going to talk about. Now, before I jump into it, so let me show you I have a demo piece also which I am going to show you here, but the list of items which you will require it. Okay, the list of the items starts with Jetson Nano, which is like a $59 device which you can use it. You are free to use any of the other devices like Raspberry Pi, but the reason, as I said, right, AI, we need an artificial intelligence to not just sensor values, but also I can see the images of the crops. I can, especially on the agriculture side, right? I can see the crops, and then based on that, I can manipulate whether the crops, the irrigation is happening in a proper way or not.
So Ajeet,
But
I actually heard that the Jetson Nano is being discontinued. Is a true story?
yes, so right now, if you see the 2 GB of Jetson Nano, 2 GB model of Jetson Nano has been discontinued, but still it is, since it is the affordable IoT edge device, I think is still used in basically in the industry. But yes, that's true. It is
Yeah.
getting duplicated, and we have, I think, the new version Orin is coming up with
Yeah,
more.
it's already available for pre-order. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Okay. Good to
Yeah.
know. Yeah. I mean, I had several Jetson Nanos recently, but I ended up giving them away at the ETH Denver event to some developers. So maybe I should have held on to one. Fine.
Yeah, and but if you look at the cost, because $59, when you look at especially these kind of a projects, when they are taken by the students, one of the main factor is cost, right? With just like $59, if you are getting a device which has AI capability, I think definitely the students are going to go ahead and use it to at least get started with the object detection type of projects.
Yeah, and I know on NVIDIA's site, they say it's still going to be supported until 2027. So even though you can't buy it new at the moment, there's still going to be plenty of support for quite a while.
Good to know. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yep. Sorry for interrupting there, Ajeet. Yeah, let's keep going. So yeah, it looks like you have these items here. I'm obviously seeing the Jetson Nano. It looks like there's some sort of Grove connector, a sensor board. What else do we have there? An SD card, and what are those two dongles?
Yeah, so this is like the one. So maybe I can quickly share my screen, share the camera, and maybe I can show that. Let me see.
Move that for just.
Okay, so this is a hardware. I don't know whether it is visible.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
visible.
we can see
it.
it.
Looks great.
Okay,
Here,
so this is basically in hardware, and on the right hand side, which you see, it is basically a stack of different Arduino, as well as Raspberry Pi, as well as the Jetson Nano on the top. And I have the other model, which is a 4 GB model, which is placed down, which has wireless USB. So what you see here is basically the wireless USB here, and then the network card, and you have a base hat. Which allows you to connect the sensor. So right now, if you see, there is one sensor which is connected, which is the BME 680 sensor. It was manufactured by Bosch for the first time, and it helps you to calculate the air quality in terms of temperature, humidity, and pressure. And also there you can also monitor different gases like methane and then carbon dioxide, NO2. So all of these can be measured. On the left side, I don't know whether it is visible, you can see the drone here, which is a DJI Tello drone, which is the whole idea is, this drone is going to fly over that agriculture land and then fetch the value because it supports the Python SDK. It is going to, one can go ahead and control it. You can fly it using your Python script. It can fetch all the data, send it to nearby Jetson Nano, and then you do both sensor analytics as well as image analytics. And then based on that, you can find out whether your crops are doing really good or not. So what we are going to do today is, since I have connected it, and this Jetson Nano has already, the Ubuntu operating system, which is already running there, I am going to show you a quick demo around how we are going to fetch the sensor values and send it to the cloud within 3 steps.
All right, cool. So did you have more of the deck to go to, or were we going to go right into this demo now?
Okay, yeah, we can directly get into the demo itself.
Oh, so, great. How about that?
So can you see my screen here?
We can bring that back.
I got it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, cool.
Okay, fine. Okay,
so now
fine.
We can see your screen, and we can see the boards there next to the screen. So it's good.
Okay. So right now, if you see, I am already logged into my Jetson Nano board, and the easiest way would be verify this. So you can see here, I can list out the hardware. It shows NVIDIA Jetson 2 GB developer kit. I picked up the 2 GB because just to show that within 2 GB, you can do a lot of stuff. You can even run the Docker containers on top of it. And if you see here, I do have a Docker version which is installed here, which is 20.10.7. So what I'm going to do right now is I have a kind of a script which I have created, sensorloader.py, and I'm just going to go through, take like 2 to 3 minutes going through the script. So what I have done, if you are well aware like how the Python works, so first thing is I'm just importing those modules. And since I will show you an example of both Redis as a NoSQL database, and I'm going to collect those sensor values, as well as the Neo4j, which is like a graph database. So the whole idea is how you can fetch those sensor values and send it to this both the databases. And if you just scroll down, you can see here all those the keys, because the Redis is a key value pair. So I have just gone and then specified these keys. So the key name is TS temperature, TS pressure, and humidity. I'm just fetching this value and I'm sending it to the Redis. So ts.add is basically a command, a Redis time series command, because now for each second your temperature, humidity, and pressure is going to change. That is the reason I'm just executing it and I'm sending it to the Redis database, right? So we have all those Redis password, Redis port, which is by default 6379. Now, one of the reasons why I choose Redis, because it is very lightweight. The whole project runs in a memory itself. Okay, so you don't really have to go ahead and configure any kind of persistent data for Redis to work. Now, instead of showing you as a container, what I'm going to do here is let me show you a simple Python script. So it's very easy. You just execute sensorloader.py, provide a host and the password. Now, if you look at, as we are talking about the cloud analytics, so my Redis database In one way, I can even run it on my Jetson Nano, but I don't, because since these devices are like, you can't, there is a limitation, right? For this device, I am using around 64 GB of the disk space. So 64 GB disk space or the SD card. So it is only going to store that. But I want to send this to the cloud for the analytics, because that is the power, right? You send it to the cloud, and how easy it is, I'm going to show you in few seconds. So this is a Redis Enterprise Cloud, which is for free till 30 MB. I am going to use that. And what I have done, I have created this basically Redis Enterprise Cloud is using AWS in the backend, and we have created a kind of a Redis database server instance. Right now, if you see this particular database, which I have created, and it has all the modules. So Redis as a database can also be used as an AI, as a JSON, as a graph, as a time series. So right now, if you see, there is a time series because we need to see based on the timestamp how these values are changing, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up this endpoint and then pick it up and push it right here. So I'm providing the host, port, and the password, which could be plain or you can have a secrets. And once I run this, what it does, it basically fetches those values and send it to the Redis database. Now, how I'm going to see that whether it is uh, uh, getting connected to the Redis database, the easiest way would be something like this. I use a Redis CLI, and right now I am inside Redis database, and you can see there the values are being inserted. And what it does, basically, it runs this ts.add for each of these temperature, humidity, and pressure. Now, since we are pushing those sensor values to a Redis database, which is running on AWS cloud in a real time with just one script. Now, the next step would be how I'm going to plot it over the Grafana. So what I have done here is we moved on the right hand side of it. If you see how to plot it over Grafana. So what I have done, so again, to show you the power of containers, we have something called as a Docker extension. Now, this Docker extension is part of Docker Desktop. And to run containers, you don't really have to go ahead and run. You need to know how to run Docker commands like Docker build or Docker compose or something like that. What you need to do, extensions are basically the third-party tool. And if you go to the extensions here, I have already installed a Grafana here, right? So my Grafana is already there. With just one click, I can go ahead and install it, right? There are different kinds of an extensions here, which you can see, and you can choose this extension. You can filter it in terms of cloud, CI/CD database. So since we are using, we are going to see how we are going to plot it over Grafana. I am going to go into the Grafana plugin, select the data source, say type Redis. So I have already entered the endpoint, configure it, and then I can say save and test. Once I do this, basically I can go ahead and explore this. Okay. Now the Grafana already has a plugin for Redis, which is called as Redis Data Source for Grafana. And here, directly you can run query. So say if I want to go ahead and create some kind of a plugin, I can add this panel here, select Redis time series. Okay, the command would be ts.get. I can provide a key here. So if you remember, the key name was ts temperature. I can give it some kind of an interval. Okay, I need a interval of 1000 milliseconds and provide here the temperature and say apply. So you can see here, this is a real-time data which is being fetched and shown in a Grafana. So it's more like the air quality dashboard which we are going to create.
And that's collecting that every second, right? So every 1000 milliseconds,
yes.
Every second it's updating the temperature.
Yeah, that's right. And the same thing, if you see here, I can pick up the TS get for pressure. I just have to provide all those variables, say run, and now I can give the stats here, and I can say, okay, what are the pressure value? So you can see how easy it is for me, because if you really have to go ahead and visualize this thing, first thing is you need to really get to know about, okay, how these things are changing. Maybe in the command line, you can see multiple values. So if I go back to my CI, it's very difficult to know what is happening here. But if you open up this Docker extension, it's very easy to find out, okay, what are the values which has been plotted, and based on that, I can run some kind of an analytics on top of it. So right now, let me also pick up the ts.humidity. So this is kind of a real-time value. And here I can give the stats.
Damn, almost. That's in percentage, I'm guessing.
Yep.
So
yeah, this is the percentage. And then right now, if you see here, we have a humidity, pressure, and temperature of my room where I have placed these particular sensors, basically the sensors connected to the Jetson.
26.4 degrees Celsius and almost 60% humidity. It's pretty hot over there.
Yeah, usually for us, it is a normal temperature, because if you look at the other part of India, it crosses around 45 degrees.
Yeah, we're so spoiled here.
Well, what is that? Let me see. So in Fahrenheit, that's 26.4 times 1.8 plus 32. That's about 80 degrees. That's not too bad, actually. 80 degrees Fahrenheit at 60% humidity, though. That'll get you.
You know, it's funny about this thing. This is so much slicker and easier than that sensor that I wrote. Remember the one I showed you?
Yeah.
This is so much cooler. Like, I wish I knew all of this. This would have been
Yeah, Gabe put together, what was it, a temperature sensor and some other stuff for your office,
yeah,
right?
it was a similar tracker, but running off a Raspberry Pi. But it was so much more manual to do everything.
What was the platform you were using? I'm gonna just spin here. I don't know how to do it.
I mean, it was a full stack. It was like Flask, Nginx, a couple other things I don't remember off the top of my head.
Gotcha. Look how quickly he did this.
I know, that's what I said. And
So
for
the-
anyone looking to replicate this is all laid out in the ARM community blog, correct?
And we're gonna post it right now.
Yes. So and it's so easy, you know. So whatever I showed you, it is in terms of, say, executing the Python script. But think of it as like, if you run a Docker container, you just have to run one Docker container on your IoT device, and the other one is an extension which is already there. So just, I would say, in less than 5 minutes, you can set up your weather station dashboard.
Yeah, this is so cool.
Yeah, and we have comments here. So Michael Hall is saying, one of our developer evangelists saying, 58 humidity is not too bad or isn't bad because
he's on the East Coast.
Because he's on the East Coast. I think humidity there is like 99% or something. And then Hybrid Robotics says he is just starting out with Grafana. So once you get started there.
I clicked on the wrong
That's
thing.
all right. Just starting out with Grafana. Very cool. Ajeet is in the channel. He's also one of your fellow ARM ambassadors. So, if you have questions there. And then let's see what Michael Hall just posted here. He says, Grafana is super powerful and supports so many back ends. Very nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says East Coast and the South. So he's in the Southeast Coast. Yeah, like essentially it's just known for heat and humidity. Yeah. And bugs.
Again, so spoiled here.
Cool. All right. What's next? Are we going to add more of these parameters, or?
Yeah. So let me go back and let me show you one of the other thing let me talk about the Neo4j graph database. So as we saw that, we easily picked up those sensor values and send it to, the cloud, to the Redis, and Redis was so quick in picking it up, and, based on the timestamp, it was showing you. But think of it as like, when you have millions of those sensors, how are you going to collect those kind of sensor values and sending it to the Grafana to plot it? Becomes difficult, right? And one of the database which has gained really a popularity in IoT space is Neo4j. And as part of the last meetup which I did with Neo4j in collaboration, this is one of the demo which I showcased, where how these IoT sensors values, how you can create a relationship. Think of it as like, if you have in a graph, you have node and relationship, right? Think of it as like, node could be a BME 680 sensors, and the relationship could be something like, how many reads, how many writes has happened, and then what about the temperature, humidity, and pressure. So now in the next demo, I am going to show you how I can create a relationship in between these devices. and that can also be shown in the form of extension which I have created for Docker extensions, right? So let me jump directly into
I feel like Neo4j. I feel like that's a play on Neo4j. Like it sounds like you're just trying to say Neo4j.
Yeah, I wonder.
Like forge, like to forge something. So
Okay.
anyway, I just
Okay.
Neo4j. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like kind of Neo4j, but cool.
Yeah, maybe like we might be naming it in such a way. But I do have I can share it with you guys later point of time. But I do have a repo which talks about the Neo4j, and especially in the blog we cover on Neo4j. This is one thing which I want to talk to you guys, saying like, okay, how we can go ahead and implement it. So what I'm going to do, I am going to just go back and maybe we can keep it running at the same time. I can stop this, no problem. So if you look at, there are number of different databases, right? Today, if you see, there are around 343 different databases, which includes the NoSQL, SQL, right? And each of the database solve one problem at a time. So what I have done here, I'm going to show you a quick demo around, okay, if we want to replace Redis with Neo4j, because Neo4j is more like a graph database, and how we are going to see the relationship. So what I have done here is, there is a kind of script which I have written, a Python script again, which basically imports this graph database, imports BME 680. You have for any of the Neo4j, which is hosted over the cloud, we have a URI and the Neo4j username and password. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and run this particular script. Okay. Once I run this Python script, it is going to insert the sensor values in terms of temperature, humidity, and pressure. And also the new factor which you see is the gas, which is the accumulation of CO2, NO2. So now we are going to see that. I believe, the value which is show is very high. Maybe it could be some kind of a problem with the device, but usually if you see it above 1000, it is very high. The CO2 or NO2 ratio is very high. But anyway, we are going to see the rest of the values and see how it works. Now, if I go back to the extension, so what I have done, if you go to the extension, recently I built an extension called as a Neo4j extension, which people have downloaded more than 500 times, which means that with just one click, I can get a Neo4j database up and running. And you can see the graph here, which is shown here. So let me show you how we can produce it. So if you click on Neo4j here, once you install it, all you need to do is provide the username and password. Now I'm connecting this. Neo4j is running basically on the cloud. Okay. And let me see if I can show you. Okay. So the Neo4j cloud version is called as Aura, where you can go ahead and create an instance. So this is my one of the instance which is running. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up those sensor values and sending for the Neo4j. Okay. And one of the thing which we would require here is, let me see if I can find it out. Okay, so we need to provide a kind of a password here, which I'm going to pick it up and put it right here and connect to it. Okay, so once I click on connect, it means it is connected to the particular database, and automatically you will see the database is intelligent enough to pick up what the relationship, what is the reading and all this thing, right? So in the past, I have few of the queries which you need to run. So this is basically Neo4j is based on the Cypher query. So I can show you the few of the queries here. Let me go to, think of it as like temperature. So if I want to have all those queries where the temperature doesn't have a null value, right? So think of it as like, okay, let me go to the temperature and pick it up. So I'm going to run this small Cypher query, right? If you are already aware of Neo4j, I think that would be easy for you guys. And I'm going to run it here. Okay. Once I run this, I get all those node entity and the temperature values. Now, in an earlier example, we were just seeing like, we were just reading it and then we are plotting into the Grafana. But what kind of relationship which we are building it? And that is where you will see the Neo4j come into the picture. So what I'm going to do here is, if you scroll down to this, you will see there is some kind of a relationship which we can always go ahead and create. So let us understand the relationship. So the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sensor node to represent your BME 680 sensor. So I'm going to pick this up since this sensor is manufactured by Bosch. So I'm going to pick this up and put it right here, the query right here, and it adds one label. It created one node and set two properties. One is the name and one is the manufacturer. In the same way, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a relationship in between the timestamp as well as BME 680 sensor. So what I'm going to do, I am going to create a new node here called timestamp. I'm going to run it here. Okay, so it added one label, one node and all. Now, based on that, what I'm going to do, I am going to create some kind of a relationship. So say if I want to create a reading where temperature is this and this Celsius and pressure is this and all, so I can directly pick up this and try to add it here. Okay. So once I add this value, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some kind of a reads value, and the reads value will be something like this. So you have two nodes, BME 680 and the timestamp, and based on that, how many times this particular value has reached, that kind of a relationship which you can build it. So you can see here, when you have a millions of sensor values, millions of sensors, and you are fetching these values, how are you going to create a relationship in between these nodes in terms of, and this will help you in the crop irrigation. The reason being, you will try to find out what the relationship, okay, when is the next time this particular temperature, pressure or humidity is going to come and being displayed, right? Those kind of relationship is what you can go ahead and create out of it. So there is a lot of, using a Docker extension, using a Python script. Simply, it took me around less than 5 minutes to go ahead and create a relationship in between these sensors. So this is one of the other use case which I wanted to showcase.
Nice. So you have the Grafana showcase there, and then you have the Grafana example, and then you have the Neo4j example.
Yep.
Cool. Very cool. And all this is through the same Docker extension.
Yes, this is an extension which was like announced in the last DockerCon, and today we have around 50 to 50 different new extensions which community is building it. And since now, if you look at, we are also looking at how to go ahead and support Docker desktop on the ARM devices, which is not yet, but there is some kind of a work which is going on. Think of it as like, with a single container or extension, the OpenCV extension, I can do some kind of a image analytics kind of a stuff. I can run AI on top of it. So there is a lot of possibilities out of it to make things very easy to go ahead and implement.
Very, very nice. Gabe, sounds like you have something you want to say. I hear your lips smacking over there.
I do have some questions. I wasn't gonna ask them just yet, but I can.
Yeah, actually, Ajeet, can we bring you back onto the camera there? We can see the hardware, which is really cool. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind staring at hardware all day.
Yep, sure.
How do we get your face back on there? Let's see. There you go. There he is. All right.
What I was gonna comment on initially is, I know you have your or the blog you post on quite a bit, Collabnix. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was checking out your articles, and you have like over 400 articles. You're just super prolific on there. How do you decide what you're writing about? Like, obviously, they're mostly Docker themed, but is it just whatever comes to your mind, or do you have kind of like a plan for how you want to educate people, and you're kind of doing this over the course of time? Like, how are you doing that?
Yeah, sure. So if you look at Collabnix, right? Collabnix is kind of a blogging site which I started in around about 10 years ago, and today it attracts around 13 to 14 million people, and the traffic is huge. And when I started building, it was more like a personal blogging site, but now if you see, most of this content which I'm in writing is basically the ask which is coming from the community. So every month we conduct a meetup here in Bangalore, and based on the questions which I get, I just go ahead and transform it into the blog post. And that is the reason, people started liking it. And there is a lot of, people who has benefited out of it, because it covers Docker, Kubernetes, cloud native, and IoT. So that is basically the theme of the complete blog. Now, choosing these blogs is definitely one of the thing which I have been doing recently, because there has to be balance in terms of Kubernetes and cloud and Docker. So whenever there is any new feature which Docker releases, one way is I always go ahead and talk about it and then try to get the feedback from the community, and that keeps me moving ahead. And the other thing is I have been very active in a GitHub issues and all. So I look at community forum, Stack Overflow, and wherever I feel like those threads, which is the long, lengthy threads, I try to get points out of it and then I convert it into the blog. So it is all about the problem solving in the industry of Docker as well as the Kubernetes.
I like that. So you're not putting out material and hoping the community will respond. You're putting it out because the community has already responded to it, and
Yes.
you think more people could benefit. Yeah, I really like that idea.
How to build a Discord bot with Chat GPT.
This is something I really wanted to share with the audience. Like,
I like your little character here, by the way.
So usually what happened that the day when I integrated Chat GPT with Discord, I think that is a time when, the Google indexing improved the website in such a way that a lot of people are joining. And I usually had around 500 to 600 people in Discord, but now it has crossed around 1.1K. And people are so busy in asking the Chat GPT the questions and try to interact with Chat GPT. So I think the Chat GPT itself is so interesting. People are coming in, they are trying out, they are asking the questions. And we did have one of the workshops which we conducted directly in the Discord itself. So that was on Chat GPT, how especially it talks about the DevOps prompt or the Chat GPT prompt for Docker and Kubernetes.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I'm looking right now. I don't know if you noticed, but I have your website pulled up here. We've somewhat diverged away from the core topic. I'm sorry, but I just love the work. Like as Gabe mentioned, the work that you've done with Collapnix, right? I think this is where I think I came across you on this one of the first times that we met. It was about Collapnix. But yeah, so let's maybe we could talk a little bit about IoT Planet too, because this was a later initiative that you launched, the IoT Planet. You still doing that too?
Yeah, you can you can click on this and you can go to the site. Maybe I can go ahead and talk about it. So IoT is one kind of an initiative. Again, it came up again with the community. There are a lot of community members, especially the students, the university students. They reach out to me saying like, hey, we want to do some kind of a conference. And then I thought that, okay, why don't we go ahead and build, stuff around it. And after the conference, there are a lot of students who reach out to me saying like, can we have one single site where we start putting all our content? And this is where you see, there's a lot of stuff around DJI Telodrone and RoboMaster and NVIDIA Jetson Nano. So right now we are in the phase of building it. And there are a lot of data which has been scattered and we are just trying to bring it one place. But this site would be one single resource for all the IoT based devices. Like how, if you really want to learn Docker and Kubernetes, I think this is a place where you can know like what especially in the container ecosystem, what is supported in terms of IoT. So one example would be whether the Kubernetes support GPU or not, and how to deploy it. And we do have a very tiny version of Kubernetes called K3s, which runs on IoT devices. So we don't have a full-fledged Kubernetes running. It is basically a very tiny version of it, and how to deploy it, how to run your containers workload on it. So all of these contents are right there. And it is, and I'm really happy about how it is progressing. There are a lot of students who are pushing the code into it.
Okay, so your students are the one who are actually producing the material for this, or are you doing it with their input?
So they are just pushing the code, and I'm just going ahead and looking at the pull request and merging it.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Pico project still here too, up and kicking. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. So this is really cool. There was an idea that I had. What was it back in Lenaro days? Working with 96 boards. This is kind of similar, but not quite. I was talking about launching what I called OSA, or it stood for Open Source Academics. This was kind of an open source place for people to go, in a way, kind of share curriculum, right? And this curriculum was intended to follow some sort of academic guidelines so that professors could take the curriculum that was shared there and actually utilize it in their own personal course curriculum. So it's a little different, but it was kind of like, hey, all these professors are doing these things. All these people are creating this cool stuff. Like, why not share it in an open source format so that others can consume it and benefit from it? I don't know. This is still pretty cool though. So you guys are kind of, this is, like you said, like a Confluence type page for people to go in and you know, recreate things that have happened in your ecosystem, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, very cool. All right, let me pull this back up. I'm going to remove this. Oops, wrong one. Wrong one. Ah, there we go. Okay. I'm gonna pull back up the slide or my questions here. So you walked us through the demo. You kind of told us about why you chose the Jetson Nano because of its AI capabilities. We got to talk a little bit about Collabnix and IoT Planet. We went through your demo talk. We got to see your demo in action using the Docker framework with the node. Sorry, the 4J, the
No 4J.
Node 4J, Node Forge, Node 4J.
Took you a little while.
Yes.
You got there.
But the node, I'm trying to recap everything here. So let's dive a little bit. I want, you know, you're at Docker now, right? And I remember, like, previous to Docker, you were at Redis, but even while you were at Redis, and I believe maybe even before Redis, you were a Docker captain, and you were also an ARM innovator. Now you're an ARM ambassador working at Docker. I'm guessing you don't get to keep your Docker captain title, right? Because now you're an employee there, so you lose your Docker captain title. But let's see. Tell us a little bit about Docker. I mean, like, are there any like big things happening in the Docker world? Like, do you still have DockerCon? Is that something that's going to be happening this year? Did it already happen? What can people like? Just drop a bomb on us in terms of like what's happening in the Docker world. Some fresh, cool stuff this year.
Yeah, sure. Like, I can do that. So there's a lot of exciting things which is happening at Docker. So as part of the developer advocate, I think one of the best thing which has happened is I got a chance to talk to multiple developers. So if you look at the Docker, previously it was more like a DevOps company kind of a stuff. We were building and we were like more focusing on how to deploy the containers over locally as well as on the cloud. But starting 2019, Docker is more focused on developer tooling. So whatever you see today, which Docker is announcing, it is more related to the developers. And that is the reason there are two things which we are focusing on. One is Docker Desktop and Docker Hub. Today in Docker Hub, we have close to around 373 billion images, which means that there are so many people pushing so many images. There are, you can see Docker being used in the healthcare, Docker being used in the financial
billion or million?
Billion.
373 billion. That's like each person on the planet made like what?
Yes. Yeah. So you can just imagine, like, there are so many, and these, you can just imagine like what people are doing with this. And I think that is more exciting. Each of these verticals and each of these developers, they are using Docker containers, right? And even before you go to the Kubernetes, the first thing is you need to know how to build the containers. And that is where your Docker Desktop come into the picture. There are around 17 million developers who are using Docker Desktop, which means that Docker Desktop today is not just about how you build and run your containers. It is basically a full-fledged developer environment. Think of it as like how you can do a volume management in terms of running both AMD and ARM based. So one of the thing, I don't know the audience, they would know. So whatever we are building on, whenever I build a Docker image on my laptop, by default, it is not going to run on ARM devices. You need to build images based, for different architecture. And we have a tool called as a BuildX. You can use this BuildX to build an image for different architecture, so that whenever you are running these containers on IoT devices like Raspberry Pi or Jetson, it should run flawlessly. So Docker is more focusing on bridging that gap. You should not, when you are building some kind of a container based application, you should not go ahead and look out for those third party tools to make it work. Today Docker has integrated, we have some kind of functionalities or some kind of features like dev environments which has integration with the VS code. So the moment you go ahead and put the GitHub repo and click and use the dev environment, your containers are going to come up, your application are going to come up very seamlessly. One of the very recent thing which was introduced by Docker is Docker extension. With Docker extension, you have the integration of third party tool. Think of it as like, if I am a new user and if I really want to see, as we saw the Grafana and Neo4j, right? Now if I really want to install it, I don't really have to go ahead and build a Docker file and run it in the Docker Compose and all this thing, right? I just have to go ahead and click on extension and my Grafana instance is there and up and running. So to save developer time, these are the tools which we have been focusing on, especially targeting on all sort of developers, be it a .NET or Python or Rust. And I don't know how many of you, whether both of you have heard about the WebAssembly. This is something which is new coming in, and this is all about running as the application much more faster in the browser, because there is a small VM, the tiny VM, which runs on it. And today, along with the Linux containers, you can even run WebAssembly containers on Docker desktop. We have a support for that. So there's a lot of features especially targeted at developers, and I think there is a lot of exciting times. And what I do in Docker is write everything about what new it is coming up, and then that keep the community excited.
Being a community leader at Docker or for Docker for so long, do you have any advice for people who are just getting into the space, just beginning to use Docker? Because I know there's so many different capabilities, and most of the time when someone jumps in, it's because the tech stack or something particular they're doing is in the form of a Docker image. So if someone's trying to just get better at it, do you have any general advice?
So if you look at in every technology, like there are 4 steps, right? Once you start crawling, walking, running, and flying, right? So when you start crawling, you just learn about this technology. So what I have seen in the recent past is people are directly jumping into the Kubernetes and start creating pods and all, even without knowing the foundation. So you need to know the foundation, and that is where your this specific technology. So if you want to really get into the Docker, you really have to understand what problem statement it is solving. Today, if I will give you one example of how you order a phone. Say if I'm ordering an iPhone from Amazon, so I just go ahead, tap on my mobile, I get the mobile, and it is up and running, right? You don't really have to go ahead and configure anything. I think Docker is solving the same problem for servers. So whatever you build on your laptop, whether it is going to run on my machine or not, I am not sure. But with the technologies or Docker engine, I can ensure that those things always work. And that is something which developers have to understand. They have to understand from the basics, saying like how to create a Docker image, what are the best practices. So some of the times what happened that when we jump into this containerized technology, because there is a lot of people talking about it without even thinking about it, we just directly jump into it and then we try to implement. And later point of time we come to know that why it is slow, why it is not working. The reason being, there has to be some kind of a best practices. Even if you are picking up a Docker image, you need to know which image to pick up. If you are picking up some of the images which is like a gig and gig of size, definitely it doesn't solve your problem, because containers are very small in size, they are ephemeral. So you need to go ahead and consider all these facts. So for each of these programming languages, we have a best practices guide, and which includes your multi-stage build, whether your image has to be smaller in size, the security in place. And then you have there is for each of these application which you build, there has to be some kind of APM, which is application performance monitoring, which you need to monitor, because developers are very they are very especially they like performance. They want to see the performance in their code. They don't like the slow running code and your slow application, right? They are very particular about it. So the best practices come into the picture, and when you go ahead and deploy it, how you are going to scale it, and what are how you are going to shape it up. So I think those kind of information is needed a lot, rather than just, if you ask me today, building container is easy because now it has been like 10 years now for Docker to exist, and there are so many things which is happening in this interval of time. But what I would say, building container is easy, but building an optimized and image for kind of a way for running a workload over the cloud or over your laptop, that is most important, and you really need to have to follow those best practices.
Building containers are easy now, but building a optimized container solution requires some practice. Yes. All right, cool. So Ajeet, we have about 3 minutes left here. I want to make sure that we get your shameless plug in. Whatever you want to share. This could be, of course, telling people to go check out the Docker resources, Collabnix, IoT Planet. Of course, these are all going to be shared in the description. But any shameless plug you'd like to drop here before we close out the episode?
Yeah, sure. Like the thing is, I have been really it is like the IoT industry, as well as working as an ARM innovator earlier and an investor, has been really a fascinating work for me, and IoT really excited me a lot. If you are working in any of the IoT project, and if you want me to go ahead and collaborate, or if you want to collaborate with me, you are always most welcome. And Collabnix definitely is a place where I go ahead and share my stories. If you are stuck somewhere, if you need help with any kind of any questions related to the Docker, just reach out to me, and I would love to help you out. And if not, I can connect you internally with the Docker team. But yes, the last word would be thanks, Robert and Gabriel, for this wonderful evening. I think I enjoyed a lot. I got a chance and opportunity to go ahead and share my story with the world. I think that's the best opportunity which I got.
Oh, I learned a lot. I felt like I should have paid for that course.
I always feel so fortunate to be able to, do this as my job, as at least part of my job.
Yeah.
To sit here and speak with amazing people like you, Ajeet. We got to just sit and get a free presentation from you and learn a whole bunch of cool stuff. So, thank you, for being here and spending your hour with us. It really means a lot. But yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Great. Cool. So then it's okay if I close this out?
Yes.
Excellent. Gabe, any last words from you?
Yeah, go ahead and join our developer program. You should know where it's at by now, but
scan this QR code.
Yeah, we're doing that again.
Let's see if it'll focus. Let's see.
Yeah, so join our developer program, join our Discord, join our Reddit, ARM software devs on Reddit. Yeah, there's our Discord link. Scan the QR code. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. All right, I'm going to close this out. Just like Gabe said, thank you everyone for joining us. This has been a great and amazing Innovation Coffee with Ajeet Raina from Docker, talking to us about edge devices. And I'm going to read the title here just so I don't mess it up. Integrating IoT edge devices with cloud-native analytics for smarter insights. We got to see multiple demos using Docker, using Grafana, using Node4j. If you want to go follow all of this stuff, you can go read the blog that he posted, and you can actually go recreate this project on your own. Everyone watching, whether you're watching live or on demand, if you enjoyed this live stream, if you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like the video and follow us or subscribe to us on the ARM Software Developers YouTube channel. Ajeet, once again, it's been a true pleasure. Always love to see you. Thank you for being a part of our ARM developer program. Thank you for being one of our ARM ambassadors. And for everyone else out there, don't forget to check us out on the ARM developer program, arm.com/developer program. Scan that QR code.
Put it up on the screen again.
There you go. One more time. All right, cool. Right down there. All right, guys. See you all later. Thank you so much. Bye, Jeet.
Peace.
Bye.
Thank you. Yep.